Today, I want to get your thoughts, gentlemen. You weren't there the day after England's penalty shootout victory against
we didn't get to do the easy, which is a shame.
Andy and Vish stepped up.
They did. I was pleased to see that. I was actually
full-throated.
I was quite.
Andy needed to be at gunpoint to do it.
I bet.
Yeah.
And I was actually, quite difficult. I found it very difficult to get any rest because it started playing in my mind that Andy and Vish weren't going to do the easy.
Yeah. Don't you worry.
And I just thought to myself, on behalf of Media and Pete, who weren't there, if they don't do that, that's out of order.
Look, when Pete said we should have a gun in the studio, we all said it was a stupid idea.
Or a cocktail
But
stick.
It's been proven right.
Did you make Andy sit on a cocktail stick and that's why he did the easy?
Yeah, it was
He
like
went, easy!
keeps him awake.
Yeah.
Indeed.
But so they did deliver. And I knew you'd shepherd them. You were very much like the sheepdog.
Really?
Yeah, you just get corralling them into the place you need them to be.
Yeah, not the farmer.
No.
Okay.
No.
No, I threatened to take their, sourdough away, and then they were straight there.
You seem a bit more relaxed at the moment about how the tournament has kind of panned out. No one's playing that well, so you sort of think that England could just kind of stumble their way into a final.
Well, let's talk about it, Peter.
All right.
I mean, as Gareth Southgate himself said, if I can't enjoy this, then it's a waste of time.
I like to think that he said that slightly differently from that. Like, well, if I can't enjoy it, then it's a waste of time. I don't care about you lot.
Drinking a fridge milkshake.
I like seeing there's like some kind of rule I need to some kind of law that I need to name, and it's inversely proportionate. Basically, the longer England go in this tournament, the fewer memes about Gareth Southgate you're starting to see, which I think is pleasing because people were all over it, weren't they, in the group? Gareth Southgate wears a high-vis dress to go to the bathroom. You know what I mean? That kind of
really
shit.
tepid
Might that
stuff.
be because all of the Reform UK accounts have been switched off?
Oh
now?
yeah, it's true. Actually, they've been beaten. They're done. Yeah, they're done.
Well, I mean, to be fair to a lot of people, it's not been brilliant from England this tournament, as many have said.
But there's no excuse for tepid memery.
No.
On football WhatsApp groups.
And you're absolutely right, Peter.
Yeah.
If you want to raise the bar, then everyone's got to do it whatever they're doing. So I think that's fair. But Jim, what did you make of it all? England beating Switzerland, obviously 1-1, 5-3 on penalties. And they're in a semi-final, which seemed unlikely, to be honest, in the group stages. I said after the Serbia game, I can see England having just enough to beat whoever they play in the second round, as long as it's a poorer team, which it was, and just was the case, of course. And I thought, but they'll maybe be outsmarted or outthought, rather, by a canny opponent in the quarter-final. And Switzerland was threatening to be that.
They absolutely were threatening to be that. I think I was really, really pleased by the change of formation. I think we all kind of knew it was going to happen a couple of days before it did, so it was no real surprise when it did happen. But I thought it suited England a lot better, and I hope they stay in it, regardless of the formation that they come up against, because actually I thought it got the best out of, certainly the best we've seen out of the players so far. I thought Foden and Bellingham were both involved, weren't getting in each other's way. Obviously, Saka came to life, was his best performance possibly in an England shirt.
It's easier when they just give up on the left side, though, isn't it? Just concentrating on those parts.
Yeah, I just thought, it wasn't scintillating still, of course, but I enjoyed the game in a way that I haven't done
really
at this point, until this point in the tournament. This felt like the best of Southgate's England as we've seen it in tournaments. When it gets a little bit deeper, it didn't seem quite so timid and quite so stodgy. I think obviously we're not creating loads and loads of chances yet, but I think other teams will be looking at England thinking they're pretty hard to play. They are going to be a difficult proposition to break down, and that is what you want at this stage in the tournament, really, because there's a maturity to it, and there's a lot of kind of frustrating elements to it still. I'm a little bit worried about Kane's fitness.
We'll come on to Kane. To Kane. But generally, you were sort of fairly happy. I think, if I may, I think a lot of people, from reading reports, reading all sorts of things, and chatting to people, I suspect some people may think that you have been a bit generous there when you're saying you enjoyed it and you thought it was better and all that kind of stuff. Some people may agree with you, but I think
it may be the recency bias towards the feeling of the end of it.
But it was better. It was better.
Yeah. But for England to score all 5 penalties, though, was,
the penalty shootout is undeniably England's best moment in the tournament, and actually the penalty shootout was where England were prepped and ready. But in terms of the performance, the formation, as Jim's talked about there, Luke, what did you think?
I was definitely better. I was interested to hear you guys chat about the idea that it wasn't a big change. I mean, Andy and Vish was saying how it was like a little tweak, and I actually thought it was a big change. I thought it made a huge difference. It felt a lot more coherent.
In the pantheon of Gareth's usual changes. He doesn't
I mean, ultimately, before that, all we've seen is a little tweak or a player replacing another player in the same thing, and that's that.
And you could tell when Jude Bellingham went off, he was when Jude Bellingham, when the numbers came up, Bellingham was like, me. It's clear that, Southgate has got, the substitutes planned beforehand, that what's going to happen. So I think he was surprised. So it seems baked into what they're going to do, subs wise. It's not very reactive,
most teams are going to have plans for that kind of stuff. To me, the point I was just making about Vish and Andy was just that I thought it felt to me like a bigger change or a bigger tweak than they were saying it was, and it seemed to suit the players better, and it made England, I think, more dynamic. It's definitely better. And we can talk about the kind of the degrees of which it was better, but I think it was definitely better.
Yeah.
And I also think that, we have to understand that it's a big if, but if England get through a semi-final against a beatable Netherlands side, we have to understand that it's getting to the point where it's not really a coincidence. It's not really a coincidence that England don't look that good in our estimation or in the fans down the road's estimation, but they still keep going through. And I was interested in what Jonathan Wilson said in his column today. It was either today or yesterday. I read it today, where he said that, in international football, you have to control the controllable.
Yeah.
You don't have time to work on the complicated tactics or go out and scout a player for a year and then go and pay the money to sign him like the top teams do. You can rearrange things as you can rearrange them. And I find it strange, and Jonathan Wilson didn't say this, but I find it strange, I'm extrapolating here, that England seem to be getting criticism for being solid as much as they can be solid, and relying on really good individual players to produce moments, because, I mean, that's as legitimate as an approach as any is. And I think, Marcus, you said it yesterday, you can't complain that the Saka goal that comes from nowhere isn't quote unquote part of a system, and so it doesn't count as much. It's a goal because he's a great player and he's being put in a position where he can affect the game, and he's doing something that he's really good at doing, and Switzerland can't stop it happening. That's great. That's a good thing. You don't really see, I mean, those goals you see, that classic Argentina one way back in the day, which Marcus will remember which World Cup it was in.
2006.
Yeah, where they knock it from back to front. Yeah, that stuff doesn't happen very often. And the reason it sticks in the mind is because it doesn't happen very often. The way England are building their way through this tournament, I think, is impressive. And I don't think that, aside from the fact that a Switzerland team can score a goal, and that was a nice goal by them, and that Slovakia can score, and that was a reasonably good goal by them, other teams are going to score. They're trying to win as well. And the fact that England are going deep in this and are now part of the conversation to win it because they're in the semi-final, it just can't, to me, it just can't be a coincidence. It can't.
I mean, do you feel that, again, a lot of the criticism of England is you look at the forward players, they're not creating any chances really. And at some point that will catch up with you potentially. But also, I think people are thinking this is actually a little bit disappointing, because when people talk about and slag Gareth Southgate in previous tournaments, well, the reason why people are saying this about England is, it's been a bit stodgy and a bit sort of uninspiring for the most part. But actually, Southgate has got his teams to play well and score quite a lot of goals. Actually, England scored a lot of goals under Southgate in previous tournaments. In this tournament, they're in the semi-final. They've scored 5 goals in 5 matches. Which is not amazing. They've not conceded that many either. But that is one of the criticisms, that we have these wonderful forward players who are very creative, and England in the final third have looked very, very pedestrian.
Yeah, well, that's actually, funnily enough, brings me back to what I was going to say about Harry Kane, because I think possibly 4 times in the first half, Saka beat his defender. And then it's not just Kane, obviously, but Kane's the person you would expect to be in the middle in that space. There wasn't really a ball for him to play that wasn't through a sea of legs, or there wasn't a simple option. And actually, that's one of Kane's massive strengths. The goal against Denmark was an example of how he is so good at knowing where to be at what time. And perhaps it was just it was just the circumstances of that particular game. But that was a little bit of a concern. But the fact that they're getting in those positions at all is an improvement. I think their attacking threat is growing and their coherence is growing. I think England rarely play together like. For this, you only play this amount of games together in a tournament. Yeah, but we're only talking about England and how they are starting to gel and become a bit more coherent. So I do think they are. I still worry they don't have the that final gear to really overcome a truly top team. If Spain or France hit their best form
or Netherlands
by the time, of course, but I'm looking ahead. If they. if they're absolutely at the top of their game. But they are. I do think they're improving, and it's gradual. It's perhaps even marginal, but there's reasons to be positive. There's lots of reasons to be positive.
Well, indeed, and Pete Donaldson over there has been I say re-nicknamed. You've got so many, but
Positive Pete.
We've tagged you Positive Pete. I mean,
because you spent the whole rest of your life really negative. You better make that context needs to be said.
It's like a little bump in like a little heartbeat.
There you go
in my life,
and there is a heart.
There is a heart.
There's a bit of flesh on that heart of stone.
What's brought this on, Peter? You just fed up of being negative all the time.
Fed up of being negative. You do. I think at the start of this tournament, I got quite excited because everybody in Europe, team-wise, looked a bit janky, and we're joining them. I think in many ways. And it's working.
There's no team that haven't had their problem.
No, exactly. And our major problem does seem to be Harry Kane's movement. He feels like he's carrying an anvil at the moment, and fundamentally he's getting fewer passes than most of the team, which would suggest that he's not making those runs or putting himself in that position when he, at this moment in time, it is quite congested behind him, so he shouldn't have to sort of hang back all that much. So he should just be concentrating on being a fox in the box. So something has to change in that side, I do really think. And the best thing Kane could do is possibly recuse himself from the second half of every format.
Like a Supreme Court justice.
Blair, I am compromised. I love the biff. I cannot play against Netherlands.
The biff.
I do think it's important to remember as well that Harry Kane has scored 2 goals so far. The realm of things that have actually happened is a really, really important thing to remember in tournaments, isn't it? Because we all think about, why can't it be like this instead? And it should have been this, should have been that. In terms of things that actually have happened, without Kane's goals, we wouldn't be here. So.
Yeah, I mean, to look at that Kane performance against Switzerland, I mean, Kane hasn't looked himself the whole tournament.
No,
which is, I think,
and he's still scored twice, which is I think is why Gareth keeps keeping him on. Right?
Well, he's England's greatest ever goal scorer, which is another reason why Gareth Southgate will keep him on. I mean, he looked knackered against Slovakia, but he pops up with the winning goal. So he hasn't looked himself. Against Switzerland, it was a bit of a stalemate. I know Switzerland probably edged it in extra time and maybe looked the more likely, but it's just one of those games, and those games can happen in tournaments. We've seen other teams who have won. We talked about Spain 2012, possibly the most impressive team we've seen at the Euros in recent years. They needed a penalty shootout against Portugal in a game which was a bit of a stalemate.
They also didn't score many goals at all in World Cup 2010 either.
Indeed, and so with Kane, one could maybe give him a pass, but it's like, okay, we've given him essentially in 5 games, we've gone, he'll come good. And you mentioned about Saka there. Obviously, Saka was great, and that was a real positive of the system to try and leave him isolated one-on-one with one of the defenders. But there were a couple of times where he made cutbacks, which you were saying, Jim.
Yeah.
And Kane should be there. There's no two ways about it. If you saw his movement, if you
100%.
watched the replays, Kane he's not like he's at the halfway line, he's busting a gut. He should be there. And if you are looking at that, you think, well, actually, that cutback and a potential goal there, that can win the tie. If England are going to play the way they are, those are the moments where actually you score a goal, you even get 2, and that can do it in this kind of international thing.
And that's to draw a line between the points that you two are both making there. If England start playing better teams, that can become more of a concern. Now, I don't want to be disrespectful, but I think a 70% fit Harry Kane can clearly make a match-winning contribution against Slovakia because they're not as good, right? Switzerland are better than Slovakia. I would say Switzerland are better than Austria and Netherlands based on what I've seen as well. So maybe it won't be another step up again. But if Kane's going to go up against
Virgil
Van Dijk and De Vrij and Van der Ven and Ake and all these other players, that's a big step up. And if he's going to be completely ineffective, because the concern I have with Kane, and I agree with Pete, just a bit more meat on the bones, the concern I have with him isn't even necessarily that stuff. It is that as well, but it's also that he's not even doing the dirty work. Yeah. He's not occupying the centre-backs. Well,
against Serbia, just to jump in, he won a lot of fouls. He relieved a lot of pressure in that game.
Absolutely.
But he's not been doing that really.
Very different picture at this moment.
And I would also say that strikers generally don't get a huge amount of credit. If they don't score, they don't really get any credit. That's just how football is. And there's so many examples of great strikers out there over the years who've done all the dirty work really well, and they know that they're making it easier for their teammates. And if the games are won, then the games are won. Think of a player like, I don't know, Emil Heskey, for example, never really scored that many goals.
Or Roberto Firmino.
Firmino's a better example, actually. But he offered an awful lot more than say, Heskey did. It's a different time. But anyway, the fact to me is that he's not really at this point, occupying centre-backs and making it difficult. I think he probably was doing it a bit more earlier in the tournament, but he's not now. So that's a big decision. The positive I would also chuck in there, though, that we haven't mentioned yet is Luke Shaw coming in.
Yeah.
And the reason I think that's a huge positive is because I think there's a chance he'll start against Netherlands, which is interesting to see where he can slot in and how positive he can be. And there was an amazing moment, I forget exactly what part of the game it was, where he overlaps behind a player and drags a defender away and makes a huge amount of space. And I was like, straight away, I was like, fucking yes.
Yeah.
And I was watching it with my parents who don't really like football that much. And they were like, what are you celebrating? And when I explained it, they were like, oh, right. It sounds really nerdy, but it's really important because we haven't had that. And the point is that it's not even that to have a pop at, say, Kieran Trippier, who, it's not like he can't do that. He's just never really been coached or has it instinctively to do that because he's not that player. Shaw makes it naturally, and he did it about 5 minutes after he came on. I thought, that's what we need.
When he came
Created
on,
a huge amount of space.
When he came on, I thought, oh, this is just Southgate. If they get dumped out of the tournament, England, he's sort of saying, well, at least my big kind of like call of bringing
I can't be criticised because he did play.
He did play. Yeah. I felt that, but when he came on, he did make us look a hell of a lot better.
I'll tell you which bit it was. It was for Eze. Eze put one in the side netting.
Oh, man.
And he had a bit, and it was Shaw who created all that space for him just by making that one run.
It was, yeah. I mean, one of the positives actually is that there's only, I think it's 5 players that haven't actually been on the pitch now. 2 of them are goalkeepers, so that's standard.
Well, you're not including Tom Heaton.
Wow,
6 players. Yes. 6 players then, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, but you
of all people should be including Tom Heaton.
No, but I mean, the spirit of Tom Heaton is very much on the pitch. So
always.
So
it's on the pitch now.
It is. It's
in this room.
It's got one hand on the trophy.
But joking aside, I want you to put more respect on his name because you've been the biggest cheerleader of his entire career.
Well, it's funny that you're not the first person to say that because I was actually talking to Fizzer about Tom Heaton and he said,
Phil Neville's a wanker.
I made some modifications.
I've been done.
That's your Phil Neville button. I may have made some modifications.
Which you would let the production team remove at any point. Now listen to it.
How about that, everybody?
I also have access to the system, turns out.
Oh, are you working for
Mossad?
Yeah, just change that one. Just check it.
If you had changed that one, you'd have been sacked.
Donad.
But anyway, what I was saying is that the 2 goalkeepers not going to play. Adam Wharton, it would be unlikely that he was going to feature considering only just moved to the
Bit of a baptism of fire, wouldn't it?
It would have been. But I think he would be good enough to slot in there. But obviously, he's back up for Declan Rice. So it just leaves really Dunk, who again your 4th choice centre half, if that's probably what he is again unlikely to play, all being well, and Joe Gomez, who is just further down the pecking order from the likes of Konza and so on. So I would like to have seen Gordon play a bit more. As I've bored Anthony Gordon.
Yeah.
So he's only had a few minutes.
He's the most hard done by of them.
I would say so. But Gordon, being the player he is, and he's a young man, he'll get his chance.
Definitely.
But the squad harmony seems to be. But having said all that, there was a lovely moment among all the celebrations when the penalty shootout was won, and everyone was hugging away and so on. And it was Lewis Dunk and Adam Wharton, and they went over to celebrate with all the players, and they're there, and they both turned around, looked at each other, and like gave each other like a high five and all this kind of stuff. Like, do you know what I mean?
Part of it.
It's all part of it.
It's the Connor Cody role.
It is the Connor Cody role. But you mentioned Tom Heaton. He has played his part because he is one of the goalkeepers. Because you don't want Pickford on the penalty preparation all the time because you get knackered or injured or whatever it may be.
I think Tom Heaton has been the most important player at the entire European Championships this summer.
Something we can all get behind, everybody. It's been nice to see the nation being lifted by that penalty shootout. Of course, the victory. You see the scenes around the country and everyone's going mad, wasting beer, but that seems to be the routine among Europe, not just here.
And also, beer is really expensive these days, guys.
Yeah,
think about
how much it costs in the stadium. Yeah. You see, like even the Swiss and everyone going everywhere, and you think, well, mind you, the franc is probably strong.
But can you have beer inside the stadiums?
Yeah.
Okay, it can't be because when we went in 2012, it was non-alcoholic beer,
wasn't it? Lavender beer.
Yeah, it tasted like lavender.
They saw us coming.
They did. Don't waste your beer, is all I'm saying.
Exactly, yeah. So we've seen all that. I mean, it was we saw that marvellous scene at was it Edgbaston where India playing Pakistan.
That was crazy. That was a great video. That
and both sets of supporters, whether you have people with India shirts on, Pakistan cricket shirts, and they all come in and they all cheering on England, which was wonderful. We saw a lovely ripple of applause on centre court at Wimbledon.
Oh, for fuck's sake! That was the worst thing I've ever seen. Like, I mean, how seriously? Get some self-respect.
What's that?
Well, I'll tell you
see
what
them
it
throwing
is.
champagne around, do you?
First, well, that's fair enough, actually.
I'm pretty sure you'll see a lot of it being knocked back in the corporate places.
Yeah.
Right,
First of all,
Cream flying around everywhere.
First of all, you've elected to go and watch tennis rather than watch England in a big game,
Yeah.
right? Second of all, you are admitting yourself how bad a sport is tennis when you're taking time out of watching the game to check out another sport, which I think is
Are the
absolutely
cricket
outrageous.
fans doing the same there then?
They are, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that was a break in play, wasn't it?
Right, I don't know.
Nor do I, but I'm
Don't
going to hide behind that. I just thought it was absolutely sickening. The thing is, it's never going to be the worst thing seen at Wimbledon, is it? Because of Cliff Richard.
Yeah. Did you like the tennis players? I forget which one. Was it the
Djokovic was
I don't care about any of
wasn't it?
them. I don't care about any of the tennis players.
He was doing like a little. One pretended to do a save and one pretended to do a kick.
Oh, 'cause tennis humour
Tennis
is the worst.
humour.
Do you know,
What about that old man with the moustache who catches the ball in his pocket? I like him.
Oh,
he
the
sounds great.
Barami.
Yeah.
He sounds a bit
he's
like
class.
you.
He's
Yeah.
class.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That sounds like a description of you.
yeah.
Well, look, okay, so you
I
said...
don't watch tennis, but
Fine.
let me just finish by saying this.
You have to.
Every time I turn tennis on the telly, you started this. Every time I turn tennis on the telly, there's a bloke standing
Turn
there
tennis on the
who
telly.
looks like a tennis player, who isn't playing tennis, but he's crying for some reason, and everyone's cheering, and Sue Barker's there talking about how great he is.
Oh, come
Right.
on.
That's all that happens. in
So you
tennis.
saw Andy Murray's goodbye at Wimbledon, is what you're saying?
It happens every year.
No, it doesn't.
There's a reason.
Sue Barker's not there anymore.
Why?
Because Cliff turns up every now and then. You said tennis humour is the worst. Okay, that's
Yeah,
fine.
it is.
Well, let's move on to something that presumably you think is better and perhaps more
Here we go.
humourful. James Corden delayed the start of his own play so the cast and audience could watch the penalty shootout. That's quite nice, isn't it?
He did it on the stage, though, didn't he?
Yeah.
He did it so that people would be talking about it like this.
Yeah,
Big fucking look at me.
Because he's not showing. He got his phone out and he was watching it himself. So it's not as if any of the other people got to see it.
That sums it up.
Classic Corden. He's in first. His kids are in coach with his mum.
I don't think
All
his
that
kids
stuff.
and his mum are there, are they?
What?
Yeah, that is a
You've
famous story.
confused
about him.
that story, yeah.
But you know, the first thing I would say on this is you've decided to go and watch a play with James Corden
in it.
Fine,
Yeah.
that's
Again.
up to you.
Right.
You've
No,
then,
no. That's on you.
That's on you.
Yeah.
You've then learned that England are playing a knockout game in the Euros, and you've still decided to go to the James Corden thing, and then you've been patronised by James Corden,
Yeah.
and the whole thing's been delayed, which presumably inconveniences your night because you've already elected not to watch the England game because you wanted to go to the theatre instead. You know, it's absolutely sickening. It's almost as bad as the tennis, but not quite. Adam Jarrell, friend of the Ramble, Adam Jarrell, who's done some other stuff for Stack. He is a formerly West End performer, right? And he said he was in Jersey Boys for a while, right? One of the 4 seasons in Jersey Boys for a while. And he said a few summers ago during a tournament, they're performing. They have to perform. It's like 8 shows a week or whatever every night.
During in England.
And it was during the tournament a few summers
And it's
ago.
London. Like
It's
people want to see it.
Exactly.
Probably not even.
So he's just doing his job,
Yeah.
and he'd quite like to watch the England game, but he's
Yeah.
working, so he can't.
Right.
Right. And he said, honestly, at one point, in one of these performances, there was 2 women down the front in the front row watching the England game on the iPad.
Yep.
On
On
an
an iPad.
Yeah.
That's too big a screen.
Yeah, while they're performing.
Hang on.
What?
What were you doing when Luke, you, Andy, and I went to see the Charlatans
Yeah, you were watching Newcastle.
Yeah, I was watching Newcastle.
on an iPad?
It's a different
Disrespectful to
vibe,
Tim
though,
Burgess,
isn't
isn't it?
It wasn't on an
years-
iPad. I had a
Okay.
foldable phone.
It wasn't front
Sorry
row.
for adopting new tech.
Imagine he was in the front row of a Charlatans gig doing it.
I mean, it's a 3-0 loss, was it, to Everton?
Yeah,
Was that really important?
It wasn't great.
He stuck it to the end. I'm not leaving early.
I think some of the defenders are watching it.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't Trippier's finest game. But there we are. All right, everybody. We are going to go for a break. After that, we will be talking about the Germany saxophone man. And
Big applause.
Yes, absolutely. A petition that has got over 350,000 signatures in Germany because they are unhappy.
It's for Cristiano Ronaldo to retire.
Indeed. And we've got some listener questions as well.
Oh, nice.
All right. See you in a moment.
Everything went wrong for him in the second half.
I just can't stop thinking about the film Space Jam.
Welcome back to the Football Ramble, everybody. That was Ian Wright in 2016. Thanks to friend of the Ramble, T.O., for sending us that clip. You can become a friend of the Ramble too by heading over to patreon.com/Football Ramble. You'll get access to the Discord where you can chat with us and other Ramble listeners and get ad-free episodes of the Ramble up front and on the continent. Right then, over 350,000 Germany fans have signed a petition for their game against Spain to be replayed because of the Marc Cucurella handball decision. Yeah.
It's never worked before, but maybe it will this
I'm glad
time.
those kind of YouGov things happen over there as well.
Yeah.
It makes you feel...
Does that mean the House of Commons have to debate it? 'Cause it's got that many, it's got that many signatures.
You can debate however much you like. Not going to happen, is it?
It wasn't a penalty, was it, Jim?
No, I don't think that should be a penalty.
I think
got
they
to be
know
somewhere. Unless players play in straitjackets, sometimes that's going to happen, isn't it?
Maybe that's what a new kit will be armless. So you just tuck your arms by your side.
Constantly pump that, put your hands up in the air, and you've just got to have your hands high up as they can possibly go.
I thought, so what, they should play maybe a bit of scooter or something in the stadium?
Yeah, so your hands are just always...
Hands up in the air! And the defence, crap, we've given away a penalty.
I think
that is not an unnatural position for a scooter song.
True.
You've got that's your defence.
Well, I mean, when the game went to penalties, England-Switzerland, the DJ played Under Pressure by Queen, which is like, I know it's the same for both teams.
Another example would be, say, Marcus, who, when he plays amateur level, plays as a striker or has done in the past.
Amateur level, it's lower than that, I think.
Okay, when Marcus has played in a, what do you want me to call it?
Bog football.
Bog football, okay. And he absolutely stinks and he's covered in mud. He could hear a bit of Oasis and he'll do his famous left-handed air guitar. Ball could hit his hand.
That's true.
Yeah.
But is that an unnatural position?
No. Because actually with Oasis...
Bit of AC/DC?
No, well, AC/DC I'd probably do the...
Right-wing rally?
But actually...
Careful. Naughty. Not with that moustache.
Actually, if you did play Oasis, I'd be more inclined to tuck my arms behind my back.
That's actually a really good
It would
point.
probably work.
Liam Gallagher's a good model for that.
He is indeed.
They should call that.
I've often said it.
Yeah.
Adopt the Liam Gallagher model when defending.
But this petition can be translated from German into English, and the rough translation is:
load of old shit.
We're the host nation. We're quite upset we've been knocked out. Can we hang on to some kind of thing while at the same time losing all of our dignity? And the answer is yes, you can. It's definitely not a penalty. Roberto Rossetti, who's the head of referees for UEFA, has said quite clearly. If the hands are by the sides, the quote is this: not every touch of arm hand is a penalty. We want to consider the movement of the players biomechanical movements. That is a clear situation. This will never be a penalty. And also, we have to be honest with ourselves as football fans and talk about the state of the game, where we should be ashamed that players have to feel like they have to put their arms behind their back to defend. The people who organise these laws of the game should see that as a symptom of what's happening and go, this is wrong.
What we need good leadership, and we need somebody from UEFA,
Stuart Atwell,
preferably the president, to come out and say, today I feel a little bit handball-y.
Yeah. And then just dish handballs out to everyone.
Well, I think that settles it. It's that kind of leadership, Jim.
A lot of people seem to be saying, well, if the Anderson one's a handball, then why isn't that one? It's like, yeah, but you don't think the Anderson one was a handball, do you? So this is completely the wrong way round.
It's inconsistent. If you make a bad decision, you have to keep on making bad decisions.
Exactly, yeah.
Forever. One thing that is cemented in legacy from this tournament, of course, is Andre Schnurrer, I think his name is, the German saxophone player. I mean, he was even invited to play at the US Embassy recently, but he's been playing in, is it a Rudi Völler kit? I forget which Germany team it is, but it's a classic German top from yesteryear.
Lovely sax as well, lovely black painted sax.
He could get any party started, let's be honest.
It's the best sax since the guy with his top off, the big chunky guy with his top off at the start of the film The Lost Boys.
Yeah, remember
with the long hair and it's the most 80s scene ever.
Well, as I say, he was invited to the US Embassy to perform at Independence Day celebrations last week as a symbol of peace between the US and Germany.
It's the most 80s instrument, a saxophone.
Oh, easily, yeah, definitely.
Germany and the US, I thought, were fine with each other, but that just cements it.
You can't take it for granted.
Indeed, I think he could, like, if there are tensions. Just send him in. And everyone will be like, here we go, come on. Come here,
Isn't Newcastle United the only team that come out to a saxophone theme?
Local hero.
Might be.
Yeah,
might be.
I often. Someone once said to me that it's a sign of great confidence in a songwriter that the first instrument you hear is a saxophone. Local hero, Waiting for a Star to Fall, Careless Whisper.
Bit of Curtis Stigers.
Stigers, there you go.
And I
wonder why. Does that open with a saxophone?
I think so.
There's 3 examples I've given, all definitely
very strong examples. Yeah,
okay.
Because Baker Street doesn't actually open with it
later, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think it starts, doesn't it?
Isn't there a Pitbull song that starts with a sax? Isn't there one that starts like that?
It must be.
That was the start of Gazzetta Football Italia you just did there.
So Latin, it.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, they should have him in the final. playing at half time.
He's about 2 weeks away from putting an album out, isn't he? Let's be honest. And it inexplicably become the biggest selling artist in Germany.
Do you know he was? So obviously he was a saxophone tutor. He lost his job though just before the tournament. He's been in this job 6 years, and he was like, "Sod it, Instagram page, let's get on it." And he's now look at him. He's the most important man in Europe, I'd argue.
Now look at him. Still skint.
Indeed, yeah. Speaking about talking of the other most important man in Europe, although of course doesn't spend too much time here these days, Cristiano Ronaldo spoke for the first time since Portugal's exit with a tweet on Sunday. Now, another thing we forgot to mention in the shootout between Portugal and France is apparently, according to reports, Ronaldo opted to shoot second.
Right.
Which is statistically a slight disadvantage.
Right.
Which is a strange old thing.
He's a big game player.
I mean, it's something like 60% of the teams that go first score, which is why they experimented with that ABBA system for a while. That's right.
And let's be honest, that went in England's favour. The shooting in front of the road fans went in England's favour as well. But Ronaldo said, "We wanted more. We deserved more. For us, for each one of you, for Portugal. We are grateful for everything you have given us and for everything we have achieved so far. On and off the field, I am sure that this legacy will be honoured and will continue to be built together."
Well, they can't build a future because you won't get out the fucking way.
Yeah, well, to me, that says that he is refusing to go.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically caused Portugal to be eliminated. You guys are you were way too light on him.
Go on, then. You've got your chance.
I thought it was the worst individual performance when you take into account all the items in the mix, the quality of the player, the experience they have, the stuff they should know what they should be doing in terms of making decisions for their own self. I think it was the worst individual performance I've ever seen.
I think that Portugal, people have talked about this England squad and I think Portugal probably had the most balanced squad and maybe even the best squad at the Euros. So it's disappointing the fact that they went 3 games without scoring, for crying out loud. And you have to say that
it was like an amazing squad. It was like they've got Jota the Slotter on the bench.
There you go.
Yeah. They've got Gonçalo Ramos, who's got a really good record. Yeah. And they've opted to play with a League 2 striker up front. Yeah. For a whole game. And they wouldn't even I said on Twitter at the time, Roberto Martinez, every minute this continues, Roberto Martinez has been emasculated by Cristiano Ronaldo.
Was that the one that got all the likes?
No, I think it was a different one.
Oh.
What I didn't tell you is I chucked a load of stuff out there. I actually carpet bombed
did some sponsored posts.
One of the most fascinating things that I think has happened to us at this Euros is on Instagram, whenever we do a video on Ronaldo or there's a clip released of us talking about Ronaldo, the amount of
Ronaldo boys.
You get the weirdest little
CR7
drips.
boys.
The weirdest little drips.
Absolutely
just run into his defence.
Just wet wipes everywhere. More wet wipes than me this morning, my son.
They're worse than Swifties.
Yeah,
they're so much weirder than Swifties.
But at least with Swifties, like they just happen to like an artist who has been like harshly
Swifties are probably at the top of a game as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So again, they can.
But
be
they
weird,
do hate you for not liking her.
Well, I haven't stated my.
Sure, you're on the fence on that. Yeah,
exactly.
I think it's dreadful.
But
it's going to be a mess, and it's going to be an absolute car crash. Ronaldo and Taylor Swift in the same clips.
We could slag off Ronaldo and Swift and set them on each other.
Yeah,
the Battle of Helm's Deep.
Yeah.
And we just stand back.
Yeah, but they might just be the same group.
But I just think that here's my take. I've said it's one of the worst individual performances I've ever seen. Right? Let me just give you a tiny bit of context. My point is just that Cristiano Ronaldo has an amazing career, and the longevity of his career basically states that he's not just physically an amazing athlete and incredibly technically gifted. You can't have a career that long at the top without knowing football. He knows how bad he is. There's no question about that. He's not some kind of idiot, some village idiot who's just been lumbering around and doesn't know any better. He knows what he's doing, and he is making a calculation that he would rather individually be involved than give Portugal a better chance of winning, because he knows if he's not playing, they've got a better chance of winning that tournament. And he's made that decision consciously.
Martinez takes some of the blame.
Martinez must take a huge blame.
He ultimately is the one who decides whether he plays or not. What Portugal could have done was...
But I don't think he is, Marcus. That's the point.
But what Portugal should have done was you either give Ronaldo the first 60 minutes or whatever and then you change it up. It's worked for the Dutch with regards to Weghorst, changing the attack, and you bring on the sort of the certainly more mobile and quicker forwards. Or you use Ronaldo like the Dutch have used Weghorst. Yeah. Because actually, if you think, there's 15 minutes to go or 20 minutes to go and it's like we're not really creating much, we're not scoring. Well, actually, what does that say? The other defenders, they're thinking, bloody hell, that is actually Cristiano Ronaldo. They're not. Whereas if he starts, they're thinking, this guy will tire, don't worry. Yeah. Whereas actually Ronaldo, if you go, right then, You got 20 minutes full of beans, and we know what he's like in the air. If they're going to put balls in the box, they'll mix it up. But they didn't, and they're out.
There's absolutely a case for making him a player as part of this squad at the age he is and the year that we're in now. As a player of a moment, like the last 10 minutes of extra time, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And he'd love that. He's a moment man.
Not a free kick. You don't have a free kick. And he takes a penalty or whatever. I know he has missed it.
No, but you're right. In a similar way to England, just happened to have used Diving Tony a little bit.
I just honestly think 120 minutes. It's so obvious to everyone that I would possibly even argue that Martinez should lose his job because you're basically saying I'm not big enough for this job.
Quite wonderfully, it's been reported that Saudi Arabian decision makers, as they're called, are set to meet with Pepe to offer him a deal to join the league.
He needs to come to the Premier League, in my view.
Well, he's got
that foot race against Marcus Thuram. My God, Marcus Thuram had only just come off the bench.
Yeah,
it was incredible to watch.
I mean, it was only because Thuram sort of dilly-dallied that Pepe got back, but the fact is he still got back. He's 41. Yeah. It was at the end of the game.
It was like
it's
Pepe
incredibly impressive.
It wasn't like he was running. It was like he was dragging the universe towards him.
That's true. That's true.
With the power and the experience he's got.
It's true. All right, we promised some listener questions, and here they are from Enter the Dangers. Is Jordan Pickford England's best ever goalkeeper?
It's an interesting one, this, isn't it? Because
no, the answer's no.
Hang on,
no?
Jim's
well, I mean, who do you have above him? I mean, Gordon Banks would be the obvious one because he won the World Cup. He had a very, very long career with England. I think he played for England for 9 years, so he's the obvious one. But actually, I think below him, who really challenges Pickford in terms of his record in penalty shootouts in particular, never let England down, has seen off a lot of different challenges in the time to the point where it's not even a conversation now. I think there's a good shout for that. And the thing with Banks as well is, let's be honest, none of us have really seen a decent amount of him actually playing. So it's you can only go on the fact that he won that World Cup, which is of course hugely significant.
Yeah.
And he was poisoned.
Poisoned in 1970, wasn't he? He got a bad lasagna.
Just talk about that, because Peter Bonetti had to play instead.
Well, I mean, the one in our lifetime would be Peter Shilton, but we saw him at the end of his
Thermos head Shilton.
Well, I say end of his career, he still lasted a few more years, but he was definitely past his peak, of course. I mean, I think the spirit of the question is it's not. Is he the English goalkeeper that had the best ability? Because of course not. Banks and Shilton, and there's a lot of others who would be above him. But in terms of playing for England, has he been the most?
Again, it's the realm of things that have actually happened. It's very important, isn't it?
Indeed, it is. And in terms of what have they done for England and how important have they been for England? Pickford is right up there. Again, you have to just say Banks purely because he won the World Cup, and also ability-wise, he would be up there anyway. But Pickford has played a very important role for England at every single tournament, and has played, will have played in 3 semi-finals for England, which is unprecedented for any English player, really, other than the ones in his own team. Yeah. So I don't think it's a ridiculous question.
No, and after the shootout, he shouted, "Get the fucking rave on" into the crowd. I don't know if you guys saw that. He didn't get that with Banks.
He also was really happy.
He did get that with Shilton, to be fair. I mean, he did drive drunkenly into a lamppost with a lady in the car at 5 a.m.
Okay.
Being chased by a husband.
He tried to get the rave on.
He tried. If the police would let him get the rave on.
Actions speak louder than words.
No, he was trying to get the afters on, wasn't he? Let's be honest.
Yeah, that's not a rave anyone wants to be a part
I also give Pickford special credit for actually actively enjoying the fact that Shaqiri tried to score straight from a corner from him.
Oh, my God.
He couldn't believe his luck. He was like, I love it. Yeah.
He's so entertaining.
Yeah. But look, the question was, is he the best England keeper ever? The answer to that is unquestionably no, but he is right up there, and I would definitely hear an argument for him against any other goalkeeper. But the fact of the matter is, Gordon Banks has got more caps. Gordon Banks won the World Cup, and Gordon Banks is England's best ever goalkeeper. Yeah. That's the reality.
Right. This from Bertie. Should future tournaments have a draw for each round rather than having it all mapped out and stop all the easier side of the draw chat? Could end up with some spicy quarterfinal and semi-final games and random nations making the final.
Do you not think that would kind of encourage people to be a bit silly about warm balls being drawn and stuff, and a little bit subterfuge and weirdness every single round?
And also there's no incentive to win the group, is there?
I like it as it is because I think you've got a bit of both. You can do a bit of mapping out, but you don't fully know. And I think it's quite an England. I'm assuming Bertie's an England fan. I think it's quite an England fan question. The reason I think that is because I don't know how much other nations chastise themselves for things that aren't their fault. Like, England get this easier side of the draw thing all the time. And fair enough, if you want to draw it up and look at it, you could probably argue that. But the reason it's happened is because the other fancy teams who you, by implicitly saying this is the case are saying better teams haven't done the job.
Yeah.
It's not England's fault Austria won a group. It happens to fall that way, and fine, there's an element of luck, but there's an element of luck in everything.
Yeah.
And if the teams that you're talking about were actually that good, they wouldn't have found themselves all on the other side of the draw because they would have won all their games.
Southgate does get criticised for not winning games in alternative realities where the draw was harder, which does seem unfair.
Yeah. So I like it as it is. What do you think, Marcus?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think keep as is.
Get Rod Stewart in.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah.
Draw the non-draw. Just tell him there is a draw. We can watch him do the draw.
He has to get pissed every one.
I mean, exploring the other idea of it though, it would be exciting in a sort of thrillingly terrifying way, wouldn't it? That you don't know until more
advertising spots, isn't it? More opportunities for NFT guys, yeah.
But it's not actually going to stop on either side of the draw, because if England did happen to, in a completely random draw easy teams every time, people would complain about that, wouldn't they? Just how it goes.
It is how it goes. Last question from Owen. It's a 3-part question. He says, gold or bronze, how tall, and what is the best location for the Gareth Southgate statue?
Christ the Redeemer on a big hill, Highgate Hill.
Highgate Hill. No, it's not high enough.
Not high enough.
No.
All right, on the shoulders of the Angel of the North.
I'd put it on the Wembley Arch.
Yeah.
On the top of the Wembley Arch.
Looming.
I should breathe fire as well.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
So Owen has continued. For what it's worth, I'd go understated bronze, but with a gold waistcoat. 100 feet tall, probably tour it around the country along with the team.
Have one at every landing strip at Heathrow.
I think
commercial or cargo,
Anybody
just welcoming
arriving.
people to England.
We've come pretty close to bankrupting the FA. Well, they've come pretty close to bankrupting themselves. I think this might finally tip them over the edge. I think we might be getting a bit ahead of ourselves.
We might be. And if we're beaten 3-0 by the Dutch in semi-final, it might look a bit weird.
Do you know what I'd do? I'd have the statue designed. And I would say this is how much of it gets built depending on how deep you go in the tournament. So if England just get to the semi-final, you only get up to the waistline. It's just Gareth Southgate's legs, and it's there, and everyone's got to look at it and go, oh, that's Gareth Southgate's legs. And foreign people who are on tourist trips here will go,
who's that? Who are those
what's
legs?
that? Oh, well, it's Gareth Southgate, but it's only his legs because he only got to the semi-final.
So is that what you should do for managers? However they've done,
Yeah.
they only get certain body parts of statues.
Or it should be affected by the size.
So Allardyce just gets a plaque.
Allardyce just gets a big toe.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
There we are. Oh, well, let's hope that he manages to get the full statue, of course.
Yeah, give him the whole statue.
With
fingernails and all.
Yeah, with an M&S polo top
Oh, my
on as
goodness me. He gets a lot of stick for that as well. Isn't that just an endorsement that he has to wear it?
Maybe, but I don't,
He's getting a lot of stick for it, is what I'm saying.
He gets a lot of stick for everything.
He does, doesn't he?
He does indeed.
Thank you for watching a clip from the Football Ramble podcast. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an upload. A single upload. Don't miss out on the uploads. The uploads are important.